Welcome back to Breakfast Central. This is the part where you get to be a part of the show by calling in to react to any of your stories or any stories you prefer to talk about on the front pages of the papers. And as we analyze the headlines today, we're joined by public affairs analyst Rasaq Olokoba. Good morning and thank you for joining us.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
All right, now let's get into the details of the paper. We're starting off with the Punch newspaper. On the front page of the Punch, local government funds is the big story. Federal government floors governors. The Supreme Court outlaws caretaker ESCO and joint accounts. Preventing democratically elected administration in local government unconstitutional, says the Supreme Court. Tinubu, NLC, NULGE, others hail judgment. Ex-Ogun local government chair, Lord's President. Federal government IOCs agree on crude supply to Dangote and local refineries. Public officials received 721 billion naira bribe in 2023, according to NBS report. Are you a public officer, sir? You are not. Okay, because they're saying that they received bribes, so I just want to be sure that you are not one of the public officials.
I don't work with government.
You don't? Okay, thank you for clarifying that. 33 billion naira fraud, ex-power minister collapses before trial, remanded in prison. That was very sad. It was very sad and shady, some people would say.
Has that script not been casted?
Yes, it just reminded me of, the one who collapsed as well.
Yeah.
I mean, we've seen it happen in different places. It's just that when the one that now actually died, we then say, okay,
Absolutely.
maybe they actually didn't have health challenges. But we'll give them the benefit of the doubt. They'll have their day in court, and we hope he gets better. National Assembly decries unlawful detention of journalists. 2 journalists have been kidnapped. We must reiterate that the families are yet to, in fact, they were kidnapped with their wives and their children. One of the journalists' wives was left by the roadside because of her ill health, and nothing has been said yet. And we are asking security agencies, please, please, and please, as much as you can, do whatever you can to bring these people back and bring their families back, because it's not a good look.
And journalism is not a crime.
No, it's not. We saw protests, they're protesting about how they're trying to silence journalists. They're called the fourth estate of the realm for a reason. Yeah. Minimum wage, Tinubu Labour talks adjourned till next week. UK varsity reviews fees for Nigerian students facing expulsion. Lagos Marwa operator hangs self over tricycle seizure. My goodness.
We're going to move on to the Vanguard now and look at some of the headlines on the front pages. Bold there, executive order, drug makers seek clear timeline, stable naira for 70% production. And the writer has that maintain non-implementation, hampering companies placing order on importation of raw materials. Others say unless naira value is fixed, local drug manufacturing is a mirage. Going above at the top, we have Edo 2024. Obaseki inaugurates 20-man transition committee. Dangote Refinery, FG, producers agreed to supply crude, enhance domestic refining, that is. Inflation, we're suffering for ways and means loan. Cardoso, that's an interesting comment from him there. Now, the Supreme Court's verdict on LG Autonomy, we've taken government in good faith, Governors Saludo and Otu. Alleged 33 billion naira fraud. He made it to this front page as well. Ex-power minister Maman slumps in courts before trial, but the EFCC still did serve him after he was resuscitated. What else do we have? Some sports for you from the Vanguard. Super Falcons camp swells as Kanu Hezua arrive. And what else? A cartoon there for you, but that takes you through the front page of the Vanguard.
All right, now let's quickly look at this Nigerian newspaper. On the front page of this Nigeria, free at last. Supreme Court grants local governments full autonomy to access funds directly, unshackled from suffocating grips of governors. Tinubu, okay, this is also replicated in other papers. Akpabio Lawan disagree as Senate fixes 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. for plenary. Obi seeks legal redress over alleged suspension by PDP NWC, demands retraction. 33 billion naira fraud, despite slumping, court remands ex-power minister in prison. Minimum wage considers 62,000 naira offer, president urges labor. FCCPC blames market cartels for high cost of foodstuffs. And that's all for now. Okay, we have one more paper.
And that's the Daily Independent.
All right, so we'll come back to that. Let's get into the details of the story. If we have more time, we'll take the Daily Independent. Let's have a conversation with the Punch. Starting off with Mr. Rasaq Olokoba, the big story everyone is talking about, local government autonomy. Arguments for and against. Which side of the divide are you on?
Well, let me, as an expert on this matter, I'm a fellow of the Chartered Institute of Public Administration and Local Government. Let me name the matter, then we'll choose the path we want to do. When Orosi took the decision, appears to have taken decision for that political aberration that led us into what we have today. All Nigerians took part in it too. We should not blame Orosi. Remember this day that every Nigerian seems to be happy with what has happened. But let's look at the complications. The first thing is that we are all talking about resource control. And resource control means that the state takes charge of whatever resources in their state. You don't relate with the federal government. With what portion of the resources should I give you? 10%, 20%? Now, the complication now is that when that succeeds eventually, then how do you handle resource control? Are you saying that 774 local governments will be talking to federal government about resources in their domain? That's a big challenge. You have to look at that. And that is why it is a problem. And we've been warning that when governors pilfer, that's accusation, funds meant for the local government, what you do is not to separate the local government from the state, because the local government is a component part of the state. There are ancestral issues that government federal government does not have capacity to resolve. There's no model of this nature anywhere in the world. Though. America has over 10,000 local government. Federal government does not control their local government, too, which is called the Aburu. So, but we resolve issues with sentiment. That's number one. Number two is that we say that the federal government, the list is heavy. They must devolve power. You're adding local government to it. Who is going to supervise 774 chairmen? In fact, there are states who are designing a model on how to sort it out. If your money is being mismanaged, the people in that local government, they want it to be mismanaged. That's why I've always said that it's a shared responsibility, governance. When public office holders do certain things and goes away free with it, what did you do as a people? There's no abracadabra or where government in the work is working. The end result is that people took part in it. People are assertive that you can't mismanage our fund in this manner. So when you reverse the trend, when state control their resources, they will design a model for their own local government, how they want it to work. That is how it's supposed to be.
But it hasn't worked so far.
It hasn't.
No. Resource control. Once they control their resources. That's not the case now. The case now is that federal government collect all the money the state is making. And that's why recent report shows that 32 states in the federation don't do anything. They just wait for allocation to collect.
Every month.
And so it is that spirit. They also dip their hand into monument for local government. So remember this day. It's going to be 5 years. It's going to be 10 years. We are going to come back to discuss that it didn't work. Because when we are saying that the public officials are not accountable for it, governors are not accountable for it. So you see, is it when local government have access to it? Is it when they're going to be accountable for it? It is when the people stand up to ask certain questions and you put your weak institutions in place. So for me, I am not in support of the autonomy. What I'm in support of is to redesign the political structure.
What would that have looked like?
To have state control their resources. Local government said they needed 57 local government, and they designed and they are funding it. That should be the case with all the states. But that is going to happen when states control their resources.
But when you talk,
we like contradictions, to use contradictions to sort out contradictions in our country. Erosi did the unity system of government and gave us 12 states. It was not his personal agenda. People have been calling for this. So Erosi just endorsed it. So about Tinubu just came to endorse what the people want. And that is going to be a very, very big complication. We said power on power sector should go to state governor. They didn't pick it up. States don't want to narrate like. They just want to collect money at the end of the month and embark on project that has no direct meaning to the life of in their state, except few states that are upcoming. And that is because resources is coming from somewhere.
but let me ask, because you mentioned Lagos states
It's going to
muddle the waters.
Yeah, and it's going to inspire call for states, call for local government, which has started.
But it can't work unless they're ready to take it to the National Assembly, because that's what
so where did they take this
Sam
one to? They take it to the National Assembly too now.
Yes, but the court is there. The Supreme Court is there as the final court of jurisdiction to make legal judgment on certain issues, and that was what was done. It was the Attorney General of the Federation.
What you take to the court, court will sit on its own. It's what you take to the court.
Of course, they only judge on evidence and within the structures that they have.
So court has no blame on this matter.
No, we're not blaming the court.
You, me, my sister here, and all other Nigerians are the one that is presiding over this matter. It's not the court. So, in essence, what I'm saying is that until we have that courage to admit that there's something wrong with this political structure and not looking for the easy way out, The easy way out is what we always want to pass. How can you legislate issues of political challenges? It's not about legislation. It's about redesigning your political structure. The political structure in this country today can't guarantee us prosperity. There's no way we're going to look at it. What God has not done for Muhammad and Christ, He can't do it for us. Save and unless that we do the most appropriate thing. Christ carried this cross. Muhammad fought his own jihad.
We should all carry our crosses.
Let's carry our crosses. So we are not willing to do that. So remember this day that you give more power to federal government, with what the federal government has, which is unable to solve the power issue, not Tinubu's administration, all the since 1966 to date. And look at the pattern. We are kept praising the previous government. I give you an example of Lagos. In Lagos, Tinubu was better than Marwa. Fashola was better than Tinubu. Ambode did his own best. Now look at what Sanwo-Olu is doing fantastically well. That's the issue we should be telling about Nigeria too. Previous president governments were always better than the past government, but that's not the case in Nigeria. There's nothing responsible for it other than the structure of the country.
So what about
you can't navigate Nigeria properly, economically, politically, in all spheres of our life properly with this structure, and that's what should be addressing.
So please, I need to interrupt you. What about the caretaker exco parts of things? As we spoke about with Sam Kragbo, the Constitution only recognizes 774 local governments.
Yeah.
But we have state governors creating LCDAs and caretaker committees, supplementing or supplanting the will of the people. These are not elected individuals. That is supposed to be what is represented at the lowest level for Nigerians is, I want to be able to see my local government chairman because I voted for him. He's easier for me to touch and hold than a governor, a state house representative member, and all above. So in terms of that part of the judgment, these joint accounts where sometimes local governments are saying all the money is together, I'm not feeling my development and I'm looking maybe at another local government and it feels like all the money or all the attention is going to them. How do we, adjudicate that part in this conversation?
First and foremost, I don't want to believe that governors are responsible for the non-performance of local government chairman. What led to why government took that decision, the governors took that decision, was because they were not moving. So government had to design a program for them that this is my road, this is your army contractor. I did the road that federal government allocated and state government allocated to me to clear a drainage. It passed through local government. They didn't do it. They didn't award it. So it came back to
the federal government, the state or federal.
To the state again. So the governor had to compel them that we must have a joint account so that when we have places where your road and my road meets as state and local government, you must be ready at the same time I'm ready to repair it. That was what led to it. It's not because there are some governors who abuse it though. We should not say that all the governors are this kind of thinking. Okay. There are governors who abuse it. So the way to address it now is not to remove and give it to the federal government. There's no model, this model anywhere in the world. And issues that are peculiarities. Federal government don't have capacity to understand it. The peculiarity of each local is the people of it that understand it. For instance, how would Tinubu understand the peculiarity in Akwa Ibom, in Safra?
Is that not the same thing they've been saying about?
So it's because we didn't hand over our life back to the people. Okay. This is proxy. A president is coming that is going to weaponize the power we have given him. Okay. A president is coming where he's going to take the charge of the control of 774 local government away from the government.
And these are all valid concerns.
That is very close.
These are very, very valid concerns. Just to mention to our audience watching that you can be a part of the conversation. Let us know what your thoughts are. Are you in support of the local government autonomy or are you against, the court judgment? Let us know the numbers to call on your TV screen. But Mr. Olokoba, regardless of whether we're in support or whether we're not in support, the Supreme Court has ruled. The Supreme Court has ruled and decided.
In Nigeria.
So how can
when laws are made that is going to create complication for the people, and I'm expert in that line.
Let's try to be positive about it, because the truth is, regardless of what side, Mr. Olokoba, regardless of what side of the divide you are on, there are positives, there are advantages and disadvantages, regardless of what side you are on. But let's try to make the best of what we have.
No, this is emotion.
No, it's not emotion. Supreme Court judgment.
To say that
everybody needs to align.
To say that it's going to work, and let's hope it's work, is emotional. You have a headache. Take medication.
All right.
We will remember this day as you have asked us to.
All right, let's move away from that. Do you have another story you'd like to take?
Oh, okay. Let's take, of course, minimum wage. Tinubu labor talks adjourned till next week. I've been following this story. You had a protest or a strike for a few days. Did it last a few days?
It was after that shutdown of the national.
This is almost a month later. There is no forward movement. If Labour was to call another strike today, do you even think Nigerians would respond?
Is it federal government and Labour? They are CMS twins. To me, they are the same thing.
But hold the
thought.
Okay.
So we have Lola from Lagos joining us on the line. Lola, good morning to you.
Good morning, everybody.
Okay, can you help us speak up, please?
Yes, good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Everybody. Yes. Let me just quickly chip this in. Irrespective of the fact that we agree or not on the judgment, one thing is clear now. Local government chairmen must be on their toes. Because now the people are going to hold them accountable for every penny and every project. Now there is no excuse of delay or whatsoever. And local government is, the grassroots, they're closer to the people. So now, there's tension in the country. Even other parts of the world. Look at what happened in Kenya. So right now, it's not jubilation like, oh, now we're in control. It's now you have to be ready to be accountable. There is no excuse anymore. The people are watching and they're watching closely. So we're going to see what they're going to do with this new power given unto them. I pray that they do the right thing so they don't cause problems in the society. Thank you.
If we had Mr. Olokoba respond to that, we'll go back to local governments.
Exactly.
But let's take up on minimum wage.
Okay, see, I said they are CMS twins. The pattern has always been the same thing. I took part in numerous protests. Wage increase in fuel hike. And our concern is that the moment we increase salary,
everything else
goes up. And you further decimate the economic life of Nigerian workers. What we have to do, it's not my statistics. The statistics from National Bureau of Statistics says that over 70% of Nigerians seek for unconventional means to add to their salary every month. That means they need intervention.
It's not a living wage.
To done. Not only about the wage, about prices of commodities.
Yes.
And this concern, we raise it with Labour. That do you want your people to suffer the fate that we've been going through in the last since 1990? Don't let us go back to military era. And they are not bothered about that, which means they are only bothered about the check-up dues, the deduction from salaries of the workers, which is also going to increase. That's what they're bothered about. That's my interpretation of it. Because you are not going to hold the prices of commodities down. So what you need to do is to create a template, a rooftop for prices of commodities, and look at the landing cost of all the essential goods in our life, production, sort it out. That's when you are going to be able to determine what should be the minimum wage, what should be the salary of a worker. And I keep saying that outrageous rent increases in all parts of the country, that you wonder why people will collect 1 million for 3-bedroom flat.
In fact, this thing you have said is a very valid point, because I'm house hunting and I feel the pinch. But hold on.
Why will okay.
Just hold on. Let's take this call from Abuja. Good morning, and thank you very much for calling.
Yeah, good morning. Good morning.
Hi, good morning, Chris.
This is Chris Daniel. I'm calling from Abuja.
All right, thank you, Chris. Please go ahead.
Yes, regarding the landmark judgment yesterday by Supreme Court, I clearly understand what your president is saying. In fact, I even understand beyond what he's presenting. It's not just about having financial autonomy to the local government. It's beyond that. There are better options, which is what he's saying. Restructuring. Let states control the resources. This brings even government closer to the people. And besides, this also negates the issue of federalism, the concept of federalism between the federal government and the federating states. The local government is supposed to be a developmental instrument in the hands of the states. Imagine a situation whereby the state control their resources and then using their local governments to develop. I mean, it becomes competitive among the states, just as we had it in the First Republic. So, I mean, if we can do this line, I mean, we get what we want. That's my take. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Chris. And that sort of aligns with the call by the former governor of Delta State, James Ibori, that he hopes there will be a review of the judgments. But I still don't want us to go back there.
Yeah,
let's quickly wrap on this labor conversation so we can move on.
So there must be a mechanism that must be put in place where price of commodities will not rise. All the road that led to farmland in all the states, the labor needs to talk to governors that you are embarking on white elephant projects.
International
and
airports.
The people are hungry. That's what keeps prices of commodities going up. And the rent, landlords have a concern that the porous agreement between landlord and the tenant is the reason why people are moving away from tenancy, renting their house out. It's not because houses are not available, but people are converting their premises to another business venture because the design for payment scheme in Nigeria, which is 1 year, is cumbersome. To pay every year is cumbersome. So people indulge and may not end up paying on time. So I can't be running after people. How many property do you have? That's the concern for Nigeria. And that's why labor needs to look into them. Transportation. What's the subsidy on it?
Health.
What's the health? So all these issues are things that labor should be bothered about. And the federal government need to tell labor that go and sort out those issues first before you come to me.
Okay.
The federal government didn't do that. They just felt that once labor come to the store, just offer them something. Instead of designing and also reminding them their own role too.
All right.
It's the role of the labor and the civil society and the rest of Nigeria and other agencies to look at how the life of workers will be better, not only on wages only.
So please, let's hold that thought. We have Tony from Benue joining us on the phone now. Hi, Tony. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
Go ahead.
Okay, I want to comment on local government autonomy. I think this is the biggest gift that President Tinubu has given to Nigeria. Because so many presidents came before and they fought it and they couldn't fight the fight. I think I recommend Tinubu did well. He did well. And for my brother in the studio, I didn't agree with him for one reason. We have tried the state governor handling these things since 1999 up to date, and it didn't work. Go to some, like Tupo local government where I'm residing in Benue State. Come to the secretariat and see how secretariat of a local government that have been existed since 1970 up to date. Go to the secretariat and see how dilapidated it is. Let us try this one and see how it will work. We are not going to leave that. Already we know that 20% of the allocation is coming to the local government. We are not going to sit and look them sharing the money as usual. It is not going to be like, let us try it and see how it will work.
Very much, Tony, for calling.
Thank you, Tony.
There's some people would argue that there's some sense to that, and Sanity is said to be doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result.
The reason why local government funds have been taken away from them is because governors are not responsible for their welfare. So they take the money away from them. The caller before him said that the component part of a country is what takes charge of local government, not the federal government.
Okay.
Let each state design the model. It didn't work since 1990 because of the way we structure Nigeria. And it's not likely to work. How many times have you still taken his governors up in Benue State?
Okay.
That is 32 local government I want to take up.
I want us to quickly take this story on the front page of the Punch newspaper as well, talking about 33 billion naira fraud. Ex-power minister collapses before trial, remanded in prison. And, you know, this is a story that is very important because whilst some would argue that he could be unwell, there are others that would probably argue that it was a gimmick. Just to run through it.
It has become a pattern. But there's no how such a money will be in someone's hand and it will be LD.
Let me read
33 billion naira.
Let's read out some of the allegations here. We're seeing that the charges against Seller Maman conspiring with officials at the Ministry of Power and private companies to indirectly convert 33.8 billion naira meant for the Zungeru and Mambila hydroelectric power projects, aiding and abetting Samson Beatrice to make a cash payment of $655,700 without going through a financial institution. alleged involvement in 22 billion naira fraud, acquiring property in Nigeria and overseas allegedly linked to the diverted funds, laundering millions of nairas and dollars.
He said it, that there's no way 33
you can't be
billion.
in possession of this kind of money and you'll be early, because all this acquisition, by the time you start monitoring where you hide them, it gives you headache. So they develop all this complication truly. And when you want to go and call to come and account for it, there's no how your BP will not go up. So my advice is clear on this. Too much money in the hand of federal government. That's why individuals like him have access to.
And then this then comes back to the local government.
Come back to restructuring.
Okay.
Let states control their resources. Give federal government limited responsibility.
All right.
Currency control, immigration, security, defense, and issues like that. But when you collect the money meant for the entire nation, it will keep falling into hands of individuals. And they keep mismanaging it.
I mean, you've talked about restructuring for the longest time. I don't think we can exhaust that conversation today. Mr. Olokoba, thank you so much for joining us
It's a pleasure
here. It's always
being with you.
great to have you.
Thank you so much.